Hello, everyone. Hi, everybody, as they say. Matt here from Matt Likes Comics, and welcome thank you all for coming out tonight. We've got an interesting guest coming tonight, all the way from Missouri. We're going to have Mr. Stevie D join us. How are you doing, Steve?
Well, I'm doing really good. I'm really happy to be here. The weather outside is snowing like crazy. We're going to have 4 to 8 inches here and 9 degrees. So we're having a little Canadian weather down here.
Yeah. I took a picture of what was outside. The snowdrift that's on my lawn outside of my house is taller than I am, and I'm 5'8". So it's been one heck of a couple of days of storms here in Canada, and I think in the northeast of the United States too. What have you been up to lately on your channel? What's big in the land of Steve?
Well, I can't believe how lucky I have been. I've won several subscriber giveaways. So 3 or 4 shows have been opening up the giveaways and showing everybody what I got, which is kind of cool. And I had broke my tooth last week, and I had to go to the dentist, so I was in St. Louis. So I went to a comic book shop before I went to the dentist. First time I've been out in the new year. Right. And I got a stack of books. I had a $25 trade-in of books, and I spent $26 and got a nice stack of books for future shows that I'm working on.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually I just ordered my stackery today. So like Alan, I keep a place in the States because when the mail was not going this way, I could go around it and get stuff to come here by courier. So I have some of that. I just ordered it. It should be here in a week, and then I'm going to have a few videos from that because plus that'll be my canoe head book when it gets here. So which of course, if those who watch Alan know about the canoe head book. So let's take a minute before we get going and say hi to everybody that's here. Hi, Lyle, who's first. Hi, Eric. Andreas. Hagen.
Thanks, Hagen, for the help.
Nate. We've got JSS Brooklyn. Hi. And we've got Comic Mike. So what we're going to do tonight is Steve has come by, and he's going to show us a bunch of books from his Iron Man collection. Steve has put together the entire run of Iron Man, I believe, all like everything, right? Certainly the run that's the first one, the first key one, right? If I remember correctly.
I have volumes 1 through 6 complete.
That is awesome. See, I can't believe how that would be so hard. Robbie, I don't really know how to answer that question because by the time, like I started collecting comics, all the definitions have been done. I think that the Silver Age would have had an easier definition period if they had started when the Comics Code did. But the fact is that people don't recognize that. They recognize it because of Showcase 4. So, and that has been pretty steady over the years. So I think that it would have been just as good with the Comics Code, though. Okay, Steve, why don't you tell the folks what we were talking about backstage?
Okay, Matt's changing his format on his show with a specific comic book character, but on the last show, he had trivia questions, so I got a few questions together, and we decided to ask the chat one question, and there's no right or wrong answer to this question. Just we would like you to consider it and put up some answers and see if we can get a laugh or so out of it. Here's the question. If Perry White went to a newspaper editors convention and ran into J. Jonah Jameson in the lobby, and they started to argue whose newspaper was better until they got into a fist fight, who would win and why?
I mean, we've both spoken before the show, and as I said, and I had come to the conclusion that J. Jonah Jameson would win, and Steve decided that Perry White would win. So our reasons are, we'll keep quiet for now because we want you guys to have a chance to discuss it between yourselves and bring up on the screen. So just before we get going tonight, I'm going. If you can see in the little banner that I'm playing with tonight, I'd like to see Steve get to 100 subscribers. He's at 87, so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. As you can see, that I'm doing a giveaway at 529 subscribers. If Steve gets to 100 subscribers before my giveaway, I will add a second prize. I like to see Steve is one of the best guys on YouTube. He's one of the nicest people out there, and he deserves to have people give him a little bit of their time to take a look, check him out. He's really nice, and he researches his stuff well. So without further ado, let's give Steve the floor, and let's see the books he's decided to bring tonight.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My first book is the first appearance of Iron Man in comic books. It's not the Tales of Suspense 39, but it is a facsimile edition.
Very nice.
And you can't really talk about Iron Man, his first issue, without talking about Dr. Jensen. He was the physicist that was in the cave with Iron Man in the movie, and he sacrificed himself to allow Iron Man's armor to be charged. So here's a picture of him in Tales of Suspense. There he is. He kind of looks like Mr. Miyagi from
he really does, actually,
the Karate Kid. And there's Iron Man being charged up, and then Professor Jensen gets shot, and you think he's dead for years and years and years and years, and then he somehow survived. But like all the superheroes, nobody really dies in comic books.
No, they don't.
And
I can understand the Marvel Milestone edition because it simply is hard to get some of these books. I mean, I only have a reprint of Action 252 right now, but I'm going to try my best to get a real one soon.
And that was Tales of Suspense number 39 from 1963, script by Stan Lee and Larry Lieber. And the armor, the cover was Don Heck, and the armor was designed by Don Heck and Jack Kirby. So they deserve credit in it too. All right. And then from 63 to 1968, Captain America shared Tales of Suspense until Iron Man #1 came out in 1968. And this is a Gene Colan cover and Archie Goodwin. And it's a beautiful cover. I just like the dark blues in it. It's hard to see, but there's scenes down here in the dark of things that happened in previous issues.
Big and Nasty wants to know where your trumpet is.
It's right behind me on the shelf by my comic books. Okay.
We're over 90 now, Steve. Way to go.
Oh, great. Tremendous. Thank you. I never thought when I started this, it was on a whim. I never thought I'd get as many subscribers. I look at who's watched it. I've had 5,500 views. To me, that's amazing. And people that have thousands of subscribers, I don't know how they keep up with it, because I try to answer every question or comment with a comment, and I couldn't do it with more than 150 probably. All right, my next book is the book with 1,000,001 first appearances. This is Iron Man 55 from 1973, art by Jim Starlin, script by Mike Frederick. It's the first appearance of Thanos He's in one panel in the very back page.
Just like Darkseid.
Drax the Destroyer, Star Fox, Mentor, Kronos, and the Blood Brothers. And you can't see it, but this is one of the comics that had the subscription crease in it. And I'll bring it in a little bit. It's kind of a cool comic to have so many first appearances. Okay, my next comic book is a terrific cover. It demonstrates one of the best suits of armor that was ever designed and built in Marvel comic books. And here we go with Howard the Duck.
Mm.
And this is issue number 30 from 1979, written by Bill Mantlo and artist by Gene Colan, one of the...
So I've never read any Howard of the Duck. What was the situation that got him to put on the Iron Man costume?
Well, he's fighting a villain. Dr. Bong is his name. And it's his arch enemy, like the Mandarin. And
Right.
Here's the money shot in the book of how the armor turned out. And it's a fire plug, and he's got Mario boots on long before they're Mario. And here's an action shot on the next page, which is kind of cool.
Nice. That is a very good facsimile as well.
And it's concluded in the next issue 31 that I have yet to collect, but it's on my list of things to find. In the great hunt for comic books, which if you're watching this show, all of us are on it.
That's right.
Okay. My next book is another milestone book in the Iron Man collection. This is Iron Man number 118. And this is the first appearance of Jim Rhodes in comic books, who later becomes War Machine. And Jim Rhodes is a pilot. And there he is by the helicopter. And then there's a close-up of him right there. So that's the very first appearance of Jim Rhodes in comic books.
Sparky, I have a lot of Karate Kid. I have his first appearance. I have his death appearance. I have a lot of books in between of Karate Kid.
And that was from 1979 and a Bob Layton cover, who drew a lot of Iron Man books with a John Byrne interior. And Mr. Akins loves John Byrne, and he loves Iron Man. So, hey, he's one of my Iron Man brothers. Okay, the next one is the significance of this book is it's a terrific cover. He's breaking the girder. It's his 100th issue. It's from 1977, and it was worked on by a whole team of artists. Janice Cohn, Jim Starling, George Tuska, John Costanza, Mike Esposito, Roy Holloway, and in the inside splash page, it's dedicated to Stan Lee and Don Heck, but it's up in there somewhere. But they should also put Jack Kirby, because he helped design the armor. And I just want to show one interior panel. There's an excellent drawing of the Mandarin.
Yes. That's probably some of the best he's ever looked. Certainly better than he looked on the camera in the movie.
Oh, yeah. And the artwork with all those artists and it being the 100th issue, they really took their time and made it real special. Okay, the next book everybody will recognize.
That's huge. In fact, the book I was reading today, that book was referenced. So that's a huge one.
This is the Demon in the Bottle cover, 128 from 1979. Cover art by Bob Layton, and the interiors are John Romita Jr. And it's really Demon in the Bottle is a 9-issue story arc that shows his on the skids due to his alcoholism, and how his friend James Rhodes uh, picked up the Iron Man mantle and carried on while Tony was incapacitated by his disease. And I read the writer of that story drew on experiences in his personal life. It didn't say if he was the alcoholic or it was a family member. Okay. Now, the next book is from 2010, Bob Layton again. And this is
So
a
so they brought him back. I'm impressed.
what if number one, and it's called Demon in an Armor. It was Bob Layton. And if you look close, this is Dr. Doom's helmet. And if you look close, its gauntlet is Dr. Doom's gauntlet.
So this brings up a question for me. Is this book considered a trending book now that we've seen Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, as the same character, obviously, who played Iron Man?
I don't know. But the story in this one is really interesting. Okay, it's a what if, so it's an alternate reality. So in this reality, instead of Reed Richards going to school with Victor Von Doom, he's going to school with Tony Stark. And he convinces Tony Stark that he's working on a project that will help with psychic ability and other such things. But really, what he's working on is a project that could transfer Dr. Doom's consciousness into Tony Stark's brain, because he lusts and covets after the fortune of Tony Stark and his industry. And he tricks Tony Stark, and he becomes Dr. living inside of Dr. Doom's body, while Dr. Doom's living inside of Stark's body. And they meet up at the end and they battle, and you have to get the issue to read it.
I think that's going to go on. After the show, give me the exact book that is, because that's going on my want list. I want that one now.
Okay, it's in the What If series. There's a bunch of one knockoffs with different characters.
Yeah, I have a couple of the original What If series. I know the concept. It's a great concept.
Oh, I watched the show on Disney. Yeah. It's really good. Okay, the next book is the first cover appearance of the War Machine armor. And Tony Stark is inside the armor at this point. And this is Iron Man 282 from 1992. Cover art by Kevin Hopgood and Bob Wysack. And this copy is near mint, and I got it for $4 20 years ago, before prices got really outrageous on stuff. But it's really a cool cover.
Just hang on, Steve. We are at 98 at Steve's page, everybody. We need two more. Go ahead.
Thank you, everybody. All right. Now, this is Iron Man 284. And superheroes die all the time in comic books, but they never stay dead, right? Well, this is the first time in this issue where Jim Rhodes puts on the War Machine armor. And there it is there. The first appearance of Jim Rhodes inside of the Iron Man War Machine armor. And what's cool in the back few pages, they show Tony Stark is not in a coffin. He's in a stasis chamber and cryogenically froze and all that stuff. And they're going to bring him back at some point. So That was a cool one. And my next book is the first one I ever collected was West Coast Avengers, 100 issues. I said, well, I'll go for a run. Why not? And I did. And I loved it because Hawkeye was the leader of the West Coast Avengers. And every time they won a big battle, they go home and barbecue. They, the mansion that got destroyed in the movie, Iron Man movie, that's where the West Coast Avengers were based. So the significance of this book is it's West Coast Avengers number 94 from 1993, cover art by David Ross and Tim Design. Jim Rhodes takes on the code name War Machine.
Okay.
And
so Jim Rhodes has been War Machine for years and years and years. Was there times that he was Iron Man?
Yes. And it when Tony was suffering from alcoholism and he couldn't cope anymore due to the strains of having to save the world all the time and running a giant industry, and those are reasons that provided the stress that and his partying playboy lifestyle, all that, and the disease itself put Tony Stark down, but the world still needed Iron Man. So that's Jim Rhodes did. And that was in that Demon in a Bottle arc where that occurs. Okay. And here's my last War Machine book. And this is where he got his own title, War Machine number 1 from 1994. Cover art by Gabriel Deco and Pam Eklund. And it's one of those 90s shiny covers.
Yes, which were, something, Alan has a big thing for shiny covers. He loves the 90s gimmicks. I find it hilarious when we go to shows together, he'll like pulling them out and like he'll take them. He'll take the shiny covers if he doesn't have them. I think it's pretty cool.
In one of my earlier episodes of Comics with Stevie D, I did 2 actually of shiny covers, and I had light effects on them, and I changed the color of the lights, flashing lights and all strobes and different colors, and it brings out the character of those chrome books. All right. The next book is a jewel in my collection, and it is the first appearance of the Mandarin.
Oh, very nice.
And
everything.
And a tremendous shout out to Brandon at Mon Comics, because he is a Mandarin. He thinks the Mandarin, and so do I, is a very underrated villain. He can go up against the Hulk. That's how strong he is, powerful he is. And Brandon knew I liked the Mandarin and Iron Man, and I could not believe it when I won his subscriber giveaway. That's one of the giveaways that I was talking about. And when I opened this up, he said, make sure you record yourself. So I did a show opening up, and I was shocked because I was expecting nice stuff and everything, but I was not expecting this. This came from the middle of nowhere, Mon Comics. Brandon, thank you very much.
I have to say that Brandon is probably one of the biggest supporters of the community that's out there. He was very nice to me. He had me on his show when I only had 40 subscribers, and I went up a lot after I went on his show. He's got a wide audience. He's got a very good knowledge of comics, especially Marvel. And according to Son of Crom, we've got one to go, Stephen.
Okay. Now, this is the same book, how you can collect it inexpensively. I'm on a budget. I'm retired, so I have to save my nickels and pennies for big books and stuff. But this is an affordable way to collect it. And this is True Believers number 1, The Criminally Insane, the Mandarin. And that's how you can collect that same cover. very inexpensively.
Mhm.
All right, my next book is another milestone in comic book creation. This is Iron Man Crash, the first computer-generated graphic novel by Mike Sands. And this came out in 1988. And
So
we're,
this is the beginning of AI then.
yes,
Okay.
our computer graphics. And I'll just show an interior page. I myself prefer hand drawn,
So do
and
I. And
where where it has
90%.
a human touch in the creation of art instead of a machine. But that's 1988, and I've read a lot of comics where I can tell that has that computer generated images. You know, they're easy to spot, but they're getting harder because the techniques are getting better and the mechanics of it is. Now here's a reference book. I just like the cover.
Yeah.
It's a repulsor ray. It's a wraparound cover. It shows.
I feel like I'm being pushed away from that book when he's pushing that ray on me.
Yeah, and that's my favorite. The back's my favorite part of it.
So
Okay.
that's represent. Okay, how many uniforms would you say that are suits of armor Iron Man wore on a regular basis? Would you say?
Well, I'm glad you asked because that was the formal part of the show. Now this book here shows a ton of armors on it: the
By the
stealth
way,
armor, the
we're going to take a
underwater
second.
armor, the
Just a
Hulkbuster
second.
armor, the space armor, just tons.
Congratulations, Stephen. You're at 100 subscribers.
Now I got to live up to it. And all of these armors, and this is the all Iron Man issue of Marvel superheroes, and War Machine's on there, and a whole ton of different types of armors.
Very nice.
And in the recent volume that I just finished, you always hear about the Hulkbuster armor being so strong and stuff. Well, he had to battle, Iron Man, Tony Stark had to battle an army of Sentinels. One Sentinel was giving the X-Men trouble. Just think what an army of them would do. So he had designed a Sentinel busting armor. I'd like to see him go up against the Hulk in that armor. But he did knock the Hulk out in the volume 1. There's a 3-issue story arc in there. How are we doing on those trivia questions? Were there any good answers?
Okay. I haven't seen much discussion. So, as we were saying to those that weren't here at the beginning, we said Steve asked the question of the chat to discuss at the beginning, where who would win in a fight between Perry White and J. Jonah Jameson, and why? So we had a couple of answers, but we're going to see. We're going to have a small discussion in front of you about this before the end of the show. So give it a little thought.
Okay. Now the second part is kind of like a cover gallery. These are villains and heroes, and this is Whiplash. There you go. This is a real cool cover.
Nice.
And
I have to say that Mickey Rourke did a great job playing Whiplash.
Oh yeah, and I saw a video where Mickey Rourke was asked by Robert Downey Jr. to be in the movie, and he was down and out. He was broke, and he was happy to get that part, and that started his career over, which is always nice. The people lending a hand, but he was perfect for the character because the reason Whiplash hates Iron Man so much because he blamed the Stark family for his father's death.
Right.
And here's a villain, Ultimo. He's a giant robot. I think he's an alien robot. And him and the Iron Man battled in Tales of Suspense and over the decades on several occasions. And he's a toughie. He's a big baddie. Hard to beat. Now here's one. Bing Bang Boom. And he is an alien, and the spacecraft that crashed in China, where the Mandarin got his 10 rings, came from this guy's planet. And this is a survivor of that. Sometimes him and the Mandarin teamed up together to fight Iron Man. Imagine fighting.
Was Madame Mask involved in that as well? I seem to remember her going after the Mandarin's rings at one point.
The Mandarin fought, and he died it, and his son got the rings, and then the rings in the current series ended up with Rory Williams. I think the genius girl that took on the Iron Woman mantle. She ended up with the rings with the X-Men character. They were in space, and Tony warned, you got to stay away from those rings. They're dangerous. You know, they have an effect on the people that wear them and causes them to go to the dark side. You know, and Tony was busy getting ready to battle the Sentinels, and he knew he needed a new suit of armor. And there was an X-Men character, I cannot forge, that's his name, I believe. He could make things, you know. And so Tony got his designs to her, and him were out in space, and they built the armor, and they brung it back. They had to involve Thor's people in his forge. But before she came back, they took the rings, and they had like a giant bow and arrow with 10 rings and shot them in 10 different directions in space, so they couldn't be all gathered together, kind of like the Infinity Stones.
Right.
Now, here's an interesting book, The Iron Lantern. And this is an amalgam comic book.
I think Collier has that one.
Yeah, and I sent an AOK to Hagen. Thanks for helping me get on again. He's my tech advisor.
Yeah.
I sent him the Captain America one, but I kept this one. I like Iron Man too much. He can fly in space faster than the speed of light. He can fly. He's powerful. His suit is held together with the power of the Green Lantern ring.
He does not have that one. Okay. I thought he did.
And it's another one I got out of the dollar bin years and years ago, you know. I love them dollar bins, you know.
I want to say thank you before we get any further at the moment. I want to take a minute to thank everybody who took the time to subscribe to Stevie D.
Oh, thank you.
I will put my money where my mouth is. There will be a second prize in my giveaway. I will put one together. So thanks everybody for that one. Stevie, you got more books for us?
Yeah, I just got about 7 or 8 left.
Go ahead.
Now here's a modern comic book. I picked this one because from time to time, Iron Man is shown in his old armor, and I thought that was a pretty good rendition of the old suit of armor. And
that is a beautiful suit of armor. I mean, that is probably
when you put this under flashing lights, the floor changes colors. And I did this on my strobing show, my shiny cover show. Now, here's one I really like the artwork. This is from a 6-issue limited series. It reminds me of The Rocketeer.
Yes, that is very nice.
1930s, 40s movie posters. And I really like the artwork in this one.
Well, I personally feel, I don't know if you've seen the movie Metropolis from the 1920s,
Yes, I
but
have.
okay, does that not feel like it's been influenced by that as well?
Oh, yes. Everything is built on something that came before.
Yeah.
That's kind of our artistic style. Um, we we learn from the masters, the people that came before us, and music and art and literature, all of it. It's kind of like old wine in new bottles. Okay, Iron Man's so cool. He's such a genius, and he's got um, his industry and his armor and his technology. He wants to keep it secret, but it always gets out, and he wants to
It
steal it.
always,
They made a
yeah,
whole movie about it, and
yeah.
this is Armor Wars #1, and he's fighting to get his technology back from villains
So
and trying to erase it from mainframes and databases and
would
fighting
this be
them.
then where the inspiration for Iron Man 3 came from?
Oh
Lieutenant
yes,
Colonel?
I'm
Okay.
absolutely sure. There's been more than one Armor Wars. Everybody tries to steal his stuff because he's so innovative. And then Iron Man, I first watched it in cartoons on television in the late '60s, early '70s on a show called Corky the Clown. It was a regional show out of St. Louis, and our weatherman was the clown, Vincent St. James, and he would show those old animated Marvel heroes, Captain America, Iron Man, the Fantastic Four, in segments. They'd show a segment of the cartoon, then they go on with the show, and they'd have some kid's birthday and stuff like that, and then they'd show another segment, and that's where I watched a lot of cartoons before Spider-Man got and the Fantastic Four got on Saturday morning cartoons.
Right.
I'm 65 years old, so I was there for it all.
Actually, yeah, it's funny that you talk about it. Our local TV station was responsible for You Can't Do That on Television, the one with the slime. And, that doesn't compare to a lot of the shows that are out there that came from some of these markets like St. Louis and Detroit. So,
Okay, now Iron Man went from cartoons to the big screen, and when I first heard he was going to play it, I did not like it. The idea of him, I always thought that Tom Selleck would have been a really good Iron Man, you know, but he was too old when it all came out, I think. But after watching all the movies, I really like him. He did way better than I thought he would, and I'm happy with his performances. I'm just waiting to see how he does Doctor Doom, you know.
that's going to be. I'm actually looking forward to that, to be honest. I'm looking forward to the Fantastic Four movie. I'm trying to find some time to go see Captain America right now. So I'm really looking forward to the Fantastic Four as much as I am looking forward to Superman as well. I see. I don't read a lot of Marvel, but I do read Fantastic Four on a monthly basis. That is one of my favorite books, and I used to read Iron Man a lot when I was younger, but not so much now, and that's why I don't know how much what's going on anymore.
Well, Iron Man is also a billionaire playboy, right? That's part of
Yeah.
his persona. And this book right here is a good example of that. And the title of this book is real cool. Vegas bleeds neon. I think that's
Right.
and there's go-go dancers all through here and his
It
mask.
really does. I've been to Vegas. It really does bleed neon.
And he's got a wad of money in his hands, and he's a playboy in this one. And here is old style. I like this style of Captain America and Iron Man. This is a Marvel Comics double feature #1, and it's a 20 center, and that's how much comics cost when I started collecting comics in 7th grade. I collected in 7th grade, 8th grade in the summer. I stopped collecting in my freshman year of high school. Never touched a comic book until I was 40 years old. And I was with my son, and we were driving around on Saturday, and I saw a sign at BFW Hall, comic book show. So we
Right.
went in. I bought $20 worth of comic books and was hooked ever since.
Yeah, I know it's addictive as heck.
And just got a couple more to show. Here is an Iron Man cover that I like.
Oh, I
Because,
love the homage to that one.
yeah, it reminds me of Nick Fury's early comic books that I've seen. He always has those geometrical designs
Yeah,
um, and there's just a lot going on in it. The Statue of Liberty and all kinds of stuff. It kind of reminds me of the Wild Wild West too. Like they'd show the TV show, they'd show a segment and then they freeze the cartoon of the segment and move on until the show was done. All right, here's my last book, and I bet everybody's happy. Okay, this is a more modern Iron Man book. It's an Alex Ross. And Alex Ross ended up doing covers on tons of Iron Man books in future volumes from this point on. And it's also written by Kurt Busiek, one of my favorite comic book writers. Uh, like people like Chris Claremont. Well, I like Kurt Busiek, like they
right.
like Chris Claremont. And uh, the two of them, they did a run on the Avengers, I think volume 3, that was just outstanding. Kurt Busiek did the writing. I'm not sure who drew them all, but I really enjoyed them. And I just got maybe one more to show. It's kind of funny.
It's your
It,
night, Steve.
and this is it. This is what happens when you cross Iron Man with Ultron.
You get a mess? No. Oh my gosh, that's
Like
wow.
Ultron don't need any more help. He's badass enough for
I
everybody,
know. He's what the scariest, potentially the worst villain in the entire Marvel universe.
Yeah, and in the movies they gave credit to Tony Stark for inventing him, but in the comic books it was Hank Pym.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, they used the body of Jim Hammond, the original Torch.
I don't know that.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things that sort of stick in my head for some reason. They may be right, may not be right. I'll look it up later, unless someone.
Nobody can know everything about comic books. I mean,
I
there's just
sure want
too
to try.
much information.
I sure want to try though.
That's why I enjoy your show. I get my Superman stuff from you and Nate from Hull, yeah, and I get my Conan from Bajorn from Spider Slabs now. I think he changed his name.
He's still good. He's still Son of Crom on some stuff. He did a video of Son of Crom this week, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And he's Son of Crom in the chat today. So
okay.
I want to say congratulations. We got you there. I
appreciate it.
You are one of the nicest men that are on. You sent me my my first AOK. I was
really?
I was very, very pleased to get that. And I was number 20 on your channel, and I like your laid back. I just love comics style, and you cannot not notice that you are a good guy through your. It shows. You just know you're genuine, and it's one of the reasons why I like you, and one of the reasons I like to bring you on here. So before we go, let's have a quick poll out there. So Perry White or J.J. Jameson? Chat, vote now. Well, one vote for Steve. Well, we got one vote for Perry. And one vote. Oh, we got 2 votes for Hilau. We got 2 votes for JJ. And if I remember correctly, we had 2 people say Perry earlier and 3 people say JJJ earlier. Oh, wait, another Perry. Robbie Josephs. And another JJ. Honestly, I think Jay Jameson, the reason why I picked him is, one, Perry's a little more out of shape. Perry might be stronger, but JJ Jameson is younger, a little more in shape, and probably fights dirtier than Perry Whitewood.
Yeah, he's a dirty fighter. And I picked Perry White because if things got really bad, Superman would jump in and save the day, and Spider-Man would be on the side going, get him, get him, get him.
Yeah, something tells me that, when it comes down to his paycheck, see, exactly, Comic Mike. There's something about JJ that just screams, he's not quite Lex Luthor villainish, but he's quite, he has a heart of gold apparently, but you know how it is. Like, he's the gruff guy, but something tells me that in a fight, he would fight really dirty, and that's why I think he would win in the end. And that's another thing we were discussing earlier today, the Great Caesar's Ghost comment. Like, we're trying to figure out what would JJJ say, and what did you say, Steve, it was?
Oh, JJ would say, he says this, he goes, what do you want, a raise? Get out of here, you're fired.
I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Steve, this has been great. I loved seeing your Iron Man collection. One last question for you. Which one do you prefer the most, Captain America or Iron Man?
Well, I prefer Iron Man a little bit more than Captain America. I've read more Iron Man than Captain America. I have the Captain America, but I got a lot of reading to do,
right,
to catch up,
Well, I want to thank you again, Steve, for showing up. Join us here next week for the battle between Steven, Step 06, Collect 06, and Lettuce Comics. We're going to have the final for the trivia challenge next Tuesday. And I hope you guys can make it, because I worked really hard on the questions there. And I think it's going to be a blast, personally. So thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. Thanks, Steve. My name is Matt.
It was a pleasure.
And I
like comics.
And I do. And I hope you all do, too. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight.